mama's in the living room watching Judge Judy. I'm in the kitchen eating leftover sushi, and she goes, oh, girl, you gotta hear this one. A man was arrested for running the theme park, and when they said, where's your license? He said, my dog ate it. Oh, you can't make this shit up. Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout, girl, you gotta hear this one. Mama loves to laugh at how absurd life is, says it's all a comedy and I'm her audience. And I love the way she makes fun of the world. She said, you'll never guess who's with their girlfriend. It was a man who didn't get us out of the bed. He said, I've been through hell and now I need some help. You just can't make this shit up. You just can't make this shit up. Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a Prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout, girl, you gotta hear this one.
Hey everybody, happy Monday. Welcome back to the channel. We are going to get straight into this because we have a busy day today and I have a busy week. Anyway, little housekeeping before we get started with this topic. The streams this week, or at least Monday and Tuesday, are going to be earlier because 3D World has magically got super busy as it normally does. And I've got plans every afternoon. Thursday afternoon, there will not be a live stream here. There will be a live stream over on the other channel because the Ashley from the Cheeky AF podcast will be on my other channel, and we will be talking about how to recover from holiday burnout going into 2026 and what we can do to kind of get back on track. Mom life. Ashley is a mother of two. She is one of the busiest people I know, and that's saying a lot considering, but that'll be on Thursday, and then Friday will be a 6 p.m. live for the Legally Effed Friday, and we will wrap up all the cases. We will be doing a Sarah Grace Patrick motion frenzy, because her trial starts the 6th, whatever that Monday is, the 5th, whatever, of January. And it most likely will be live streamed because there are a few motions from Law and Crime about recording. So it will be streamed, and we will be streaming that, but it will be a night stream, and it will be a petty replay, speed play, because we don't have time to sit for 8 hours during the day and watch a live trial. We will be watching it on 1.25, 1.5 speed, skipping the bullshit, the sidebars that we can't hear anyway, and just getting to the heart of the drama. That Sarah Grace Patrick is the TikTok teen who is accused of unaliving her mother and her stepfather, and them posting on TikTok and asking for help solving the crime. Anyway, the motion we are going to talk about today is from the Tyler Robinson case. He does have a hearing at 12 today, but life means that I can't cover it live, so we will be covering it tomorrow, pending if it's a 4-hour stream or not, because the last time we covered a Tyler Robinson hearing, it ended up being 4 hours. However, This document is a couple weeks old. However, you know that we've been busy covering everything on this channel, and certain things have had to slip through the cracks. Yep. Can you close the door, please? So, this document, I have thoughts. When you see the words death penalty and conflict of interest in the same court document, we have a problem. The defense in the Charlie Kirk case is basically accusing the prosecution of something that courts take extremely seriously, a personal conflict inside of a death penalty case. Not vibes, not internet drama, a formal motion backed by ethics, laws, and case law. Tonight, or today, it was supposed to be tonight, but you know how when I write shit and when I actually do shit are two different times. We're walking through exactly what's being alleged, why the appearance of fairness matters, and whether this is the kind of issue that can derail a prosecution entirely in a case that is already has massive internet speculation to start with. The conspiracy theories that are running through this case is enough to derail a prosecution and give the defense means to introduce reasonable doubt. However, but when the state, and we are extremely hard on the state here, is asking to take a life, every step has to be beyond reproach. You cover your ass every second of every day and make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And it looks like, by all appearances from this motion, that the Utah County Prosecutor's Office is an epic fail in a case that's already under intense media scrutiny from not only the mainstream media, but every YouTube pundit from here to Candace Owens. And how is everybody doing today? StreamYard, or FlashFan, thank you. StreamYard's being funky today as opposed to any other day. So if you see me like looking around, it's because shit changed, and I got to adapt to change. We all know how good I am at that. FlashFan, please like, sub, and share. This is an awesome chat community. It's an awesome community, and I love you. And to my haters, thank you for being here and hate watching too, because you are the reason that I keep doing what I'm doing, because the more hate I get, the more I want to piss you off. On Sunday afternoon, it was 70. This morning, it's 23. This is ridiculous. And King Bob, I hope you are feeling better in the next couple of days. Bad pain days are always shitty. I know how that goes. But thank you for the one gifted Squid Pro Quo membership. It is very much appreciated. Andrea, how are you? And how's our favorite calamari? She is busy and tired. And feeling better, but not good. So I'm feeling better, but like overwhelmed kind of situation, which is why Ashley and I are talking about burnout and recovering all of that and being a recovering people pleaser as well. She Nemesis, how are you? Andrea, good to see you. Let's see who else is here. 2 awesome dogs or 3 awesome dogs. Winter bomb cyclone. Oh no. No. Cynthia, how are you? Snipe Hunter, good morning. Ammo, good morning. How are you? Yeah, I wish we could see the private unedited motion. I do too. It is redacted. We were going to we're just gonna go with it. And Unhung Hero, thank you for the 10 gifted Squid Pro Quo memberships. Thank you for helping support this channel and ensuring that I don't bust my ass for free. Because I was talking to someone this morning and they were like, and people ask why we don't cover every trial and every document and everything. Is because there's not enough. And they brought up a really, really good point about burnout and even busting your ass on your YouTube channel and feeling like you are not making progress, because the more things you cover, the more of a rabbit hole and the deeper you get into things, and then people want more and more and more and more and more, and it's just you're running in place. We never seem to get ahead. And John, thank you. Good morning. How are you? It is so good to see you. I'm figuring out Discord. This could be good. I was notified about the stream. Yes, in my Discord, I do post, I would say 90% of the time. When I set up a stream, I post it in the Discord in the future or Squid's upcoming lives. I will be making a ETM live button in there. However, I have to remember how, because the reason my Discord looks like it looks is because of Gabby. Gabby is amazing. She helped me set up my Discord, and the reason my Discord looks anything like it is because of her and FlashFan. That has nothing to do with me. So you get burned out sometimes, and I just sure. Yeah, yeah, everybody gets burned out. And good morning. And Discord is a hard place to figure out. It's confusing sometimes. However, I try to make it simple on mine. It's pretty boring in there. But if you do need to get a hold of me, yes, I have my email. But Discord is probably the easiest way to DM me, where I will get back to you almost immediately. So, All right, let's get into this document. Window. Oh yeah, Gabby is amazing. Gabby is chef's kiss. Gabby is awesome. She's like the behind the scenes master. And hey Tammy, how are you? All right, so this is State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. If you haven't heard of this case, have you been living under a rock? And hey, Heroes Chris, how are you? Yes, thank you, Andrea Burkhart, for the motion. She purchased them and put them on her Substack, and I paid for her Substack for a year. So I would rather give my my money to Andrea Burkhart and support her channel and her work than constantly be paying hundreds of dollars for the state of Utah. Yeah. Gabby is awesome and intolerable all at the same time. I hope FlashFan screenshot that and send that to her. Don't let Gabby hear you say that. All right. Jesus. This is the Gabby love-hate fest. Snipe Hunter, I know you're joking. So, and Gabby does too, I'm sure. Defendant Tyler Robinson, by and through undersigned counsel, hereby moves this court to disqualify the Utah County Attorney's Office. Not just one prosecutor, the whole office. The whole office. And I have to, sorry, got a notification that my front door camera is, oh, there's a big old box at my front door. I say it to her face. I know you do. I know you do. And she just laughs in yours. That's what makes it funny. And that's the kind of humor that we have on this channel. If you are new here or you think any of this stuff is serious, like this is the kind of humor that we have. Gabby has to deal with me, so she knows we're joking. All right. They're looking to disqualify not just a prosecutor, but the whole office. It is anticipated that this court will hear this issue during a previously scheduled hearing on January 16th at 1 p.m. The hearing tomorrow is not on this motion. The hearing that's today is not on this motion. The hearing that is today is on the release of the transcripts from the October 24th hearing. And the okay, who shipped themselves to Squid's house? My Amazon subscribe and save. So like dish soap, my Celsius is for the month. All the stuff that diapers. And Devil Fan, good morning to you. All the stuff that I get 15% off. Deodorant, all the it's hard to type inside this box. Why won't Squid come and get me? Good Lord. Oh, yes. And we'll get into that because there are reasons. I mean, we're only in paragraph 1. I did skim the entire document, so I do know a little bit about it. I will be honest, I did not read it word for word because where's the fun in that? Uh-oh, Squid, you're a subscriber? Of course I am. Amazon is like my jam. Amazon is like, you know, Amazon is my jam. I get most of my stuff from Amazon. Mr. Squid is a Walmart person. I am a Amazon person. There's the battle in our house. Requested relief. Mr. Robbins seeks an order of this court finding that people representing the state of Utah for the Utah County Attorney's Office in this capital prosecution has a concurrent conflict of interest based on personal connections to a direct witness/victim to the events at issue in this case. Further, Mr. Robinson seeks findings from this court that 1, upon learning of the conflict, the attorney's office did not employ any screening protocol, and 2, the information pertaining to the personal involvement of a certain prosecutor was shared amongst the assigned prosecutorial team, including the county attorney. Based on these findings and the interest of prosecuting Mr. Robinson's federal and state rights to due process, Mr. Robinson requests that this court order to disqualify this from representing the state in this matter. Just based on the appearance of this, I believe that this will be approved. I do not see the judge fighting this. However, this begs the question, if this motion is heard on January 16th, and if the judge says, yes, they're disqualified, where does this go? Who will be prosecuting this? You know, the best stuff is that you get is stuff you forget you're subscribed to. I go through my stuff because I'm balling on a budget here. So I go through my stuff every I can see this case moving to another state. I don't see it moving to another state. I see it moving to another county. I just don't know which one, and I just don't know. Yeah. Relevant facts. Charlie Kirk, the leader of Turning Point USA, appeared on UVU campus. At approximately 12:23, Mr. Kirk was shot and killed. It has been estimated that approximately 3,000 students and other observers were present at the time of the unaliving. Of course, the scene was chaotic for many in attendance and life-changing. When you can buy stuff 15% cheaper than the store and get 15% off more, is the best option. Yeah, and it gets delivered directly to your house, so I don't have to go shopping, which is, yeah. One witness described hearing the shot. We're gonna kind of skip through some of this stuff that's not relevant, because if you don't know the basic facts of this case or what happened to Charlie Kirk on September 10th of 2025, congratulations, you have been living under a rock for the last 3 months. After a few moments, the crowd collectively got up in unison, started to panic and run, as you would expect when someone is just unalived right in front of your eyes. All right. Exhibit B, statement of BB. The witness got down on the ground trying to make herself as small as possible. She thought more shots were coming and it was going to be a mass shooting, which I probably would have assumed if I was there too. Not one of these things of, do I think is wrong. However, it's what happens later that might be a little sus. Oh, I just used that word. She and her cousin sprinted to the nearest building, where she grabbed the nearest trash can and threw up. She just described it as traumatic and she can't stop replaying the event in her mind. Another witness offered the atmosphere was of pure panic and I was scared for my life. Exhibit C, statement of JH. Not the JH, not the either of the two JHs that we know. Because we know two JHs, both YouTubers. Another witness stated right away that everyone was on the ground trying to protect themselves from possibility of more shots. I can remember thinking I could not get low enough and I was instantly scared. And this is the first time I've actually read statements of witnesses. I struggled to text my mom that I was safe with shaking hands. Exhibit D, statement of CJ. Another witness shared we were in shock because there was so much blood. I was pulled to the ground and started praying. I thought I was about to die. I was on the ground wondering when the bullet was going to hit my back. I was so terrified they wouldn't find the shooter and he'd start aiming at us. Exhibit E. Even those who were present on campus but did not see the shooting themselves were impacted and significantly traumatized. Students were locked down in classrooms, experienced panic attacks, and the traumatic aftermath comparable to those of those four direct observers. Exhibit F, TikTok screenshots. September 16th, Mr. Robinson was charged in a 7-count information with aggravated murder. The aggravating circumstances for this offense is that defendant knowingly created the great risk of death to another individual other than Charlie Kirk and the defendant. The state has not yet identified the other individuals supporting the aggravating circumstance. Also on September 16th, Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray gave an hour-long press conference explaining the state's intention to seek the unaliving penalty. I've said the D word too many times for YouTube's algorithm, so before I get demonetized, yeah. Oh, I gotta send you another hearing. The guy who originally confessed to the crime was in court recently. Oh, yeah. Blank and other members of the prosecution team were present at the press conference. During the press conference, Mr. Gray conveyed, I also want to express my concern for everyone who was at the TPUSA event at Utah Valley University and have been impacted by this tragedy. From the beginning, I said change of venue would happen. However, this motion is abnormally critical of prosecutors involved. Evidence of personal conflicts. The personal conflict, I believe, is what happens when a specific person who was at the event text a friend or family member, I can't remember, who happens to work in the office. Unfortunately, one of the students in attendance at the Charlie Kirk presentation on September 10th was the something of that person. At the time of the shooting, Blank was with the Utah County Attorney and Jeff Gray at presentation in Davis County. He began receiving texts from his family member and shared those with Mr. Gray in real time. Redacted also called another attorney in the prosecutor's office almost immediately and told him about the shooting and shared his Blank's texts with him. Redacted has described the text message exchange as follows. Yeah, that right there. That makes it when someone that you know is there, they text you, which I don't blame that person who was there for texting a family member, especially a family member in a perceived position of power from a college student. Assumption that it was a college student. That's my assumption. That doesn't mean it's correct because it's redacted, so I don't know exactly. But based on the fact that it was at a college and most people there were college kids, I'm just assuming. The fact that they text somebody who works in the prosecutor's office and that prosecutor shared the information, where the person who worked in the prosecutor's office shared that text with other people instead of just keeping that to himself and being like, hey, my my family member was there and they text me, they're all right, but they text me some pretty gruesome stuff. It's appearances are it's kind of not though. It's kind of not because when you have this is one of the reasons that like a lot of prosecutors and a lot of um judges don't have social media because even having a social media account um can leave you open to the appearance of impropriety. And you don't have to do anything wrong. It's the appearance of doing something wrong. When remember how they say possession is 9/10 of the law? Um, appearance is very important when you are a prosecutor. Y- it's hard to describe, but even the appearance that you are doing something wrong is bad. Um, I see it disqualifies that particular employee. It was the fact that he shared it. So, as much as I do not like Tyler Robinson, as much as I do believe he was the one who did it, however, I don't see this as a good look for the prosecutor's office. And I am very hard on the prosecutors because they're members of the state. And we are hard on judges and prosecutors here because at the end of the day, they're members of the same team. Um, it I wonder what they meant by share. We'll get into that. Uh, he's described the text message exchange as follows. Texted my family text group, someone got shot, and almost immediately afterward, texted the same group, I'm okay, everyone's going inside. At 12:26, redacted texted the same group, Charlie got shot. At 12:30, redacted texted the same group, people say he was shot in the neck. And that footnote was Utah County Attorney announces charges alleged. We had watched that. I was live on Shizzy's channel when we watched that. So, people say he was shot in the neck and his head like tilted or something. At 12:33, I texted my redacted, did you hear a shot or what sounded like a shot? Redacted responded to me at 12:38. I for sure heard it. Everyone started screaming and running. A few people said that they saw the shot hit his neck, not sure. The fact that he didn't the person there didn't just say I'm good. It was the fact that they were all talking about it, getting details. And it's like talking to a witness. It's like talking to a witness outside of court. It just even though it was before any charges were brought, it still raises questions. Yeah, any sharing of information amongst prosecutors prior to charges should automatically disqualify the team. That's it's a family group chat because they said Mr. Redacted has described the text message exchange as follows. Blank texted my family text group. So there's a group chat. So, hey Malin, how are you? So it was a family group chat. So multiple people were texting. It's not that he was in there and he should have instantly recused himself from the case or from the situation. I don't know if he's an actual prosecutor, if he's one of the people in court kind of prosecutors, or he's supporting or a paralegal, whatever, or a legal assistant, whatever. However, he should instantly have absolutely nothing to do with this case, being like, I received text messages. You should know better. Like, you should know better. Knowing that this was going to be a case that has intense media scrutiny, everybody is talking about it. You need to be on your P's and Q's. You need to be on your best damn behavior. Yes, but group chat, but sharing amongst office workers is tainting the team. Yes, which is why I say he should have immediately have said, I received text messages from a witness. I am going to recuse myself from even working on this case, and kept his mouth shut. But he did not, from the sounds of it. And that's where the problem lies. Yeah. I mean, did he show he did that? We're going to get in, we're cart before the horse, but the first part is he should have recused himself from this case, from having anything to do, touching any evidence, working on any documents, talking to any witnesses. Just done. Yeah. Redacted believes that he discussed his redacted's presence at the event with others in the office at the time. That's when I would have that's when I would have said, I received text messages, my so and so is my family member is fine, but I'm not having anything to do with this case. That's a question that we shall see, but it will be discussed on the January 16th hearing, which we will be watching. He also discussed the exchange and the potential conflict issue with the entire prosecution team prior to disclosure to the defense. He disclosed it. However, he disclosed, I'm can't say I'm proud of someone for disclosing something, but he never should have discussed it with the entire prosecution team. He should have just said, my family member was there, they're fine, I'm sitting this one out. Today's hearing is for what the judge's rulings on the October 24th, the stuff that was discussed in the last hearing. If the judge does not disqualify the prosecution, yes. If the judge disqualifies the prosecution and they start over in a different county, no. Which is one of the reasons that I think that this prosecution team is out. Like, this county, sorry, Utah County, you're done. Like, you're done. Like, you're just, I don't know how else to describe that. You're done. Let's start over. You know, like, blank holds a supervisory role at the attorney's office as the blank under Mr. Gray. See Exhibit G, Utah County Attorney press release. At the request of redacted, he and the investigator went to the UVU campus to determine the exact distance blank was from Mr. Kirk. His redacted was approximately 85 feet to the northeast of where Mr. Kirk was seated when he was shot. His redacted backpack was left in the amphitheater as they fled the scene. See also Exhibit 1, photograph from Fox News. Yes. Hey, King Paco, how are you? I'm not saying that one out loud. Disclosed information to email to Mr. Robinson's counsel on October 1st. Defense counsel blank and other prosecution team member Christopher Ballard spoke on this issue October 9th, and additional information concerning communications with the prosecutor's office was provided at that time. He has stated Mr. Robinson's counsel that his blank will not be a witness for the state and that he does not believe that this circumstance presents a conflict of interest, precluding him from participating in the prosecution of Mr. Robinson. Yeah, the fact that you shared stuff. Redacted provided the same information that this to the State Bureau of Investigations. Yeah, I still don't. This is not a good look. This is not a good look. Blank's conflict of interest requires his disqualification as his continued participation in the prosecution would violate Robinson's state and federal due process rights. Yeah. Redacted's familial relationship with a witness presents a concurrent conflict of interest and disqualifies him from participating in the prosecution of this case. Mr. Robinson's due process rights require Blank's removal from the prosecution of this case. This I agree with. Maybe not the whole team, the whole county. However, especially since she's not going to be a witness, but it's still not a good look. Still not a good look. I believe that he should be removed. He should have removed himself from this case immediately. Utah Code 1768 501, attorneys who serve as a public prosecutor shall conduct on behalf of the state all prosecutions for a public defense committed within a county or prosecution district. Attorneys serving as public prosecutors are ethically bound by statute according to the following. He's got an attitude. Yeah. So how to screw up a case and fuck around with BS. Yep. Attorneys serving as public prosecutors are ethically bound by state statute. According to the following, an attorney exercising public prosecutor duties under this chapter is a lawyer representing an organization as a client under Rules of Professional Conduct 1.13, represents the state as an organizational client, is considered the representative of the state, is empowered to make commitments for and decisions on behalf of the state. I think this is the only thing the defense has to beat the table because the evidence and law is not on their side. I'm not seeing the same taint as you. I'm just saying it's not a good look. It's just I can see it both ways. You might not want them involved because they'll be more aimed at justice. They also might ignore things that would show the alleged perp is not guilty. Yeah. I think he should have recused himself immediately. The whole office, because she's not testifying, or I'm assuming it's a girl, sorry, because the alleged family member is not testifying, the whole office, maybe not, but definitely that particular person. Like all Utah lawyers, those serving as public employees are subject to Utah Rules of Professional Conduct 1.7, which outlines when a lawyer shall not represent a client because of concurrent conflict of interest. A lawyer serving as public officer or employee is subject to Rule 1.7. Footnote 3, special conflicts of interest for former and current government employees. This is going to be a... do we know for certain that an attorney involved in this specific prosecution is involved? I'm not sure because his name is redacted. I don't know for sure. They can move to disqualify some of the evidence. It's a long shot, but I've seen crazier. It's this is complicated. If this wasn't such a high profile case under so much scrutiny, I don't know if I'd feel exactly the same way. But any look of impropriety or any look of especially when people don't think that Tyler Robinson is the guilty party anyway and are looking for any reason to go after the prosecutors and the state saying they got it wrong. If info was shared, it disqualifies all, not individually, and that's the fine line. There's the line. A prosecutor has the responsibility of a minister of justice and not simply that of an advocate. This responsibility carries with it a specific obligations to see the defendant is accorded procedural justice, that guilt is decided upon the basis of sufficient evidence. Utah Rules of Professional Conduct 3.8, Comment 1. To this end, it is clear that a prosecutor should be disqualified on a timely motion when he has a personal conflict of interest. Hey, Taz. I just straightened it. I went to the gym this morning and tried to blow dry it. I didn't wash it, blow dried it, and straightened it. I'm getting it done tomorrow, so it won't be this ugly shade of blonde anymore. This is the fine line that they're walking here. You would think the Karen Reed case would be an example to all prosecuting offices of what to do and not to do. You would think. You would think. I have no doubt there's a lot more that's not public. Then there's always the there's always that behind closed doors. Relevant here, a concurrent conflict exists if there's a significant risk that the representation of one or more clients will be materially limited by the lawyer's responsibilities to another client, former client, or third person by personal interest of the lawyer. And the fact that his family member was there is the personal interest. You want to see justice because your family member is now scarred for life. Utah courts have found that such a conflict exists when counsel may make choices advancing other interests to the detriment of his client. Such conflicts are only waivable in specific circumstances. And Taz, thank you for the $5 super chat. Happy New Year, everyone. Loves and hugs. Thank you. I appreciate it. The statements don't show anything more than a timeline of events and not anything that would bias Tyler. That's true too. Like this is a 14-page motion, but 48 pages total. So we'll see what all the exhibits have in them. There might be more that we don't know yet. I don't know. This is why we discuss it here, because I don't claim to be right. I just claim to have an opinion. My opinion may not be right. My opinion may not be what the judge is going to do. It's just I still say they're going to attempt to move this out of state. Probably. I mean, they probably wanted it moved out of that county to begin with, and this is how they're doing it. Public officers prosecuting defendants while laboring under a personal conflict endangers a defendant's right to due process, according to the U.S. Constitution. As stated by the United States Supreme Court, injecting a personal interest, financial or otherwise, into the enforcement process may bring irrelevant or impermissible factors into the prosecutorial decision and, in some contexts, raise serious constitutional questions. Further, a prosecutor violates the requirement of fundamental fairness assured by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment by attempting to, quote, serve two masters. In this case, the personal relationship between redacted and his redacted, a potential witness and victim, raises serious concerns about past and future prosecutorial decision-making in this case. He cannot serve two masters and should not be permitted to do so. I agree with that. I agree with, yeah. All defendants can find something a judge would be biased over with their case. Not disagreeing. Just hope they don't move to Salt Lake County. That DA is trash. CNN is streaming the Erin Peterson documentary, a lady in Australia who poisoned and took out her ex-husband's family with mushrooms in their beef Wellington. Oy. I feel like I heard that before. His integrity is not the question, and his opinion that there is no conflict is not dispositive. Rather, his redacted experience raises an objective question as to whether or not the circumstances present a significant risk that his personal family interest may materially limit his ability to represent the state of Utah in these proceedings in the matters ethically required. In assessing the irreconcilable conflict that exists here, the court should consider that production of discovery in this case has only recently begun, and there is no way to say with absolute certainty that his family member will not be a witness. The defense is not in a position to make this assessment and should not be required to do so. I don't disagree with the defense here. I mean, y'all can feel free to disagree with me, but similarly, expecting him to separate his role as a family member with the wholly natural instinct to protect and shield redacted from past and future harm from his role in the prosecution of the individual alleged to have caused harm to many, including his redacted, is not practical and defies common human experience. As described by witnesses on campus at the time of the shooting, the event and the aftermath were harrowing, even for those that did not see the shooting as it happened. He and his family member are not immune to this trauma. There must have been fear, anxiety, anger, and a host of other emotions as the events unfolded that day and throughout the investigation, culminating in the arrest of Mr. Robinson. These feelings and impressions do not simply resolve because a criminal case has been filed. Jury's still out. It is planned to be. However, the person running the camera in the courtroom has pushed some boundaries that have pissed off the defense and, quite frankly, the judge. And if that person keeps effing up, the judge will remove all cameras from the courtroom. So, yeah, that this has to be squeaky clean, as it always should be. However, with the amount of people going over every document and every background of every prosecutor, there are people who are going into like the conspiracy theories from high hell in this case. Oh, Flash fan, that one is going to that one I think is going to bring down some Hollywood folks, because there should be some people in Hollywood that should be lawyering up right now because of some issues that happened, and in order to cover their asses, they should be lawyering up. Conan O'Brien should be one of them. All right, there is no way to predict at this time what direction this case may take, what critical prosecutorial decisions will be required, and how they may be impacted by the experience of redacted with his family, both in real time and after the initial crisis. These influences may be subtle. For example, he may be less inclined to believe a witness whose observations are not consistent with those of his family member, or he may make specific strategic decisions to avoid his person having to testify, even if that may not be in the best interest of the state's case. Redact is empowered by the Utah State Legislature to make commitments for and decisions on behalf of the state. The wielding of the awesome powers of the government against a defendant must be beyond reproach to comport with due process protections. I don't disagree. Let's just get a new camera. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how this will go. I can see both sides of this, and this is what makes it hard, this person must be disqualified. The whole office, I'm still jury's out, but that person's probably retired, if not, yeah. that person's probably retired if he's even still with us. The risk that Redacted's personal involvement may limit his ability to fulfill his obligation to the state of Utah must also be assessed within the context of the grave consequences being sought by the state, the unaliving penalty. Less than 1 week after Redacted's communications with his family, who was at the Turning Point event, were provided with the county attorney and his team, including Redacted, filed notice of the state's intent to seek the unaliving penalty against Robinson. Such notice is not required to be filed until 60 days after arraignment, which occurs after the preliminary hearing, and yet it was filed concurrently with the charging information. The rush to seek unaliving in this case evidences strong emotional reactions by blank, the county attorney, and the entire prosecution team, all of whom were informed of his and blank's personal experiences. I don't necessarily agree with that. However, I can see where the link would be made. It does take a little bit of mental gymnastics, but, you know. The risk here is substantial. He has concurrent conflict of interest and must be disqualified. His conflict of interest must be imputed to the entire prosecution office, and the county attorney should be disqualified. This one I'm not sure about. This one we'll have to see. When disqualification is appropriate, it is usually sufficient to disqualify the particular attorney with the conflict rather than the office. However, whether a prosecutor's office should be permitted to remain on a case despite an individual prosecutor's personal conflict is dependent on the mechanisms utilized to cordon off the potential conflict to prevent the conflict tainting the rest of the office. In State v. McClellan, the Utah Supreme Court found the Utah County Attorney's Office should have been disqualified from the defendant's prosecution. They not only brought a Utah Supreme Court case, they brought the Utah County Attorney's Office. Oh shit. The defense ain't playing. Remember, one of these defense attorneys was the guy who represented the Menendez brothers. The conflict in McClellan arose from defendant's former counsel joining the county attorney's office, creating a presumption of shared confidences between former defense counsel and the county attorney's office. Prosecutor's office was afforded the opportunity to rebut this presumption by providing evidence that the former defense counsel was properly screened from participation in the McClellan's case. Finding there was no evidence of any attempt to screen the attorney from the case, the district court was under an obligation to disqualify the entire county attorney's office. See also State v. Cater. What constitutes an effective screening procedure will depend on the particular circumstances of each case. In State v. Balfour, the Utah Court of Appeals found that where the district attorney with the potential conflict voluntarily recused herself to avoid even the appearance of impropriety, the state rebutted the presumption of prejudice stemming from the pre-existing political relationship between the defendant and the district attorney. The conflicted attorney also transferred supervisory authority to another in the office, effectively screening herself from the case. There's no Utah case factually analogous to the circumstances here, the redacted being the redacted of a witness to a unaliving at a crowd event whose traumatic experiences were conveyed to the prosecution team in real time. However, the same core principles espoused by McClellan should apply. Where redacted has a personal conflict of interest, prejudice to Mr. Robinson should be presumed unless the state is able to rebut it. As to the ability of the attorney's office to rebut prejudice, there's already been significant communication between redacted and the entire prosecutorial team, including the county attorney, and potentially others in that office who are not on the team, about his experience and his redacted's experience. That right there is the problem. He should have recused himself and kept his mouth shut. Like, that that's the problem, and that's what's going to be hard to get over, because that doesn't look good. It's one thing if your family member texts you and you're like, "I can't do this. I'm too emotionally involved in this case, blah de blah." And you tell the county attorney why, but you don't provide specific, like, text messages. He explained what was in those text messages. That's the problem. And that's what I'm having the problem with, is the fact that if he would have just said, "Yeah, my so and so was there. They're having a hard time with it." That's a little different than sharing the contents of those text messages. Mm. Further, it appears that no effort has been made by the county attorney to mitigate possible prejudice from his personal conflicts, as he remains on and is still the redacted of the prosecution team. The county attorney should be disqualified from prosecuting this case. Yeah, immediately recusal and be silent, saying it involved a family member. Uh, I agree with you, Devil Fan. What I'm having the problem is that he showed the contents of the text messages to other attorneys in the office and other staff members. That is where I have the problem. Yeah. Yeah, there's no one cares. It's not dramatic. It's not drama. It's not um talking about um it's not talking about what actually happened, or it's not talking about conspiracy theories. Therefore, it gets no, you know, it gets no support. It's not drama. People like drama. And the fact that I don't do drama 24/7, you know. Cases from other jurisdictions are instructive and support this conclusion. People versus Connor, California Supreme Court considered the disqualification of prosecutor's office where a prosecutor was a witness to and potential victim of defendant's alleged criminal conduct. That I can totally see. I'm here, but about half asleep. Yes, this is creating the conflict and appealable. That's the thing. It's appealable. In upholding the trial court's determination of a conflict, the Connor court notes because of the dramatic and gripping nature of the circumstances, the pervasiveness of the communications regarding the prosecutor's relationship to the incident, and the difficulty in gauging their cumulative effect, there was a substantial evidence supporting the conflict. The information was to disclose a substantial number of his fellow workers, and the size of the felony division, 25 attorneys, was relatively small, supporting the assumption that there is a commendable camaraderie which exists among these officials. The court concluded, while it may be difficult, if not impossible, to prove that the bias of the DA's office will definitely affect the fairness of a trial, the trial court is in a better position than are we to assess the likely effect of the shooting incident. We will not disturb the court's conclusion that the DA's discretionary powers exercised before or after trial, consciously or unconsciously, could be adversely affected to a degree rendering it unlikely that the defendant would receive a fair trial. The supervisory nature of redacted position when the attorney's office also contributes to a need for the disqualification of the entire attorney's office from the prosecution of this unaliving case. In State v. Tate, Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals concluded the entire district attorney's general staff should be disqualified from participation in a prosecution due to the attorney general's conflict, having first appeared as a judge in this case, then becoming employed with that prosecutor's office. The Tate court commented that the prosecutor, as a representative of the people in state criminal prosecutions, must always endeavor to promote the public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the criminal justice system. and the prosecutor should be disqualified either based on an actual conflict or the mere appearance of impropriety. In finding that the disqualification should extend to the entire office, the court noted that there was no screening procedures, the prosecutor maintained a role of supervisor, and there was no open discussion of the case amongst him and the other prosecutors. In determining that the appointment of an entirely new prosecution team was necessary, the Tate court found the perception of a fair trial is just as important as the reality. The state's motion will give us the other side of the story. Truth as to actual conflict will either be shown or it won't. Hell, the state employee could be a male person for all we know. He's not a male person. He is a supervisor in the county attorney's office. It says the nature of his position within the attorney's office all contribute to the need for disqualification. He is a supervisor. Yeah. So the person who should have disqualified themselves is a supervisor. Yep, it says the supervisory nature of his position within the county attorney's office also contributes to the need for disqualification of the entire attorney's office from the prosecution of this death penalty case. But yes, the state's side of things will show us the reality. Or, there's always 3 sides to a story: your side, my side, and the truth. So we'll see what the state has to say. The perception of a fair trial is critical in any case and nowhere more than here. When Mr. Robinson's life is in the balance, the rigors of the 8th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, Statute 9 of the Utah Constitution, demand enacting scrutiny on those tasked with enforcing the law. These protections demand the disqualification of the attorney's office. Based on the foregoing, this court should find that redacted has a conflict of interest and must be disqualified. The disqualification should extend to the Utah County Attorney's Office because no effort has been made to shield the prosecution of this case from his conflict. I don't disagree. I don't. I don't disagree, and that sucks because I really want to disagree. Charlie Kirk shooting, statement of BS. Prior to arriving at the UVU campus, I dropped off my son at my in-laws to babysit him. My friends picked me up. Here we had headed to the Charlie Kirk event. We parked, walked around the place where the location on campus where the event was being held. We got to the event area and made our way down to the front row in the corner of the barricade. So we were right in the front row left if you're facing the booth. We arrived around 11:15 at the location and actually just checked my call records. We got there at 11:09. I was on the phone with my other friend who was already there, and we were trying to find him. He was in the front row, right in the center. Between then and the shooting, we were just sitting. I don't know what that means. So these are witness statements. More witness statements. And I will post it. Well, go look at because I didn't pay for these. She did. Andrea Burkhart. Go support her Substack, and you can have access to all of these. Myself and arrived at UVU. We came in through the north building by the food place. Inside, I noticed how many people were there, and I was expecting to be searched because that's what the ticket said online. There were more people there than I thought. We were probably 40 to 50 feet away from the tent on the left side. Just witness statements. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I've always said from from the first shot that the venue would change. Just not sure judge can find jurisdiction without some sort of political bias or knowledge of the details. Yeah, they knew from the beginning this was a watch your P's and Q's, and did he do this on purpose? That I never want to assume that or never want to bring that up, but it's yeah. Exhibit C, another statement. I arrived at the event at 10 a.m. Right before the shot, the question was asked about how many trans shooters there have been, to which Charlie responded, "Too many." A little more dialogue happened, then we heard a sound as if it were a firecracker. I believe it came from behind me to my left, but hard to say because of the echo. I then looked back at Charlie and saw him cease up an unexplainable amount of blood gush from his neck. Trigger warning. We all got down to take over, not knowing if more shots would follow. While we ducked, it hit me that Charlie just got shot and I needed to get out of there. After 10 to 15 seconds, I got back up, ran to the side of the barriers close to where Charlie was taken at, and fled campus. The atmosphere was of pure panic, and I was scared for my life. Yeah, I see this being moved. I see this being moved. Like I see this. Yeah, defendants' rights are always the most important. And this is where it gets hard sometimes because we want justice and we want justice, we want justice, we want justice. But if it's Tyler Robinson's rights today, it's yours tomorrow. And that's what makes it really, 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 really hard. These are just voluntary statements, and sorry, some of these are really hard to read. And I understand people were writing these and probably full of emotion. However, it's just so here's but Duncan, Idaho, thank you for being a member for 15 months. I glossed over that one. And like I said, this is going to be a relatively quick stream. It's not being moved states. It will not be it has to be a federal case for it to be moved to states. If I'm remembering that correctly. If it's moved to a different state, it's now a federal case. Because remember, if anything crosses state lines, it's federal. So it doesn't matter what the defendant is accused of because the defendant is not the actual individual. The defendant is you and me. Yes. Feds won't take it to California, no. It's not being moved to Massachusetts either. No, it'll be moved to a different county in Utah. I just don't know which one. And I just don't know which one. Nope, this is state. The feds have not brought charges. This is a state case. And I think right there, Devil Fan, I'm going to use you as an example. I think that's where the general public is getting kind of a little bit out of their minds with the conspiracy theories. Because yes, Charlie Kirk was a public figure. I got a wristband in the mail the other day from TPUSA because I donate to TPUSA. I'm blatantly obvious about that. I've donated to TPUSA a few times. However, with that being said, I think people are thinking this is automatic, this is federal because of the FBI's assistance. The FBI is only assisting. The FBI is not the main player in the case. Also, we have to remember that although Charlie Kirk was a public figure and had friends very high up in the government, he was very good friends with J.D. Vance. He was good friends with President Trump. However, He's still a civilian. At the end of the day, Charlie Kirk, just a civilian like you or me. Not a government official, not a politician, nothing like that. He was just a civilian. He was a very well-known civilian, but it would not be a federal case. If he was a federal politician, then it would be a federal case. However, and that's not to say that the feds will not bring charges eventually. However, this is a state case. So people that are like, well, we haven't seen the autopsy, we haven't seen this. Tell me how often in a state unaliving case do we get access to the autopsy? 0 to 10%, maybe. If you have an insider, you might have a little bit better. But like it, you know, it's one of them situations of like this is just a state unaliving case. No different than Kyle Rittenhouse state case. No different than Sarah Boone state case. High notoriety, but Sarah Patrick state case. It's just it would be no different than if like the next person who got shot in Atlanta. I just use Atlanta because it's a big city and it happens. That we don't know anything about. It's just a state case. Just because Charlie was popular and very well known, a celebrity, shall you say, does not make it a federal case. And you can tell how many people in this country do not know anything about our justice system and how our justice system actually works because they think it's a federal case because he was a well-known celebrity. It's like, that's not how it works. It's just a state case, and it's going to be handled like a regular state case. And it's just going to be handled like any other unaliving case. Yes, it has more media scrutiny, but people are like, well, we haven't seen this document. We haven't seen that document. It's because you're not going to, because you don't in any other unaliving case. You're not going to in this case either. Yeah, sometimes states release that stuff. Oftentimes they don't. Yeah. Yeah, that right there. Yes. Was Menendez a state case too? Yes. It's California. OJ state case. You could, yeah. The only time you really get a federal unaliving case is when it's a politician, or that's pretty much it. I think the confusion falls because Trump said he would involve the FBI. Yes, as a support, not as the main investigator. It's always nice to have the FBI, basically states can take a long time to get evidence processed, in the sense of like DNA, stuff like that, because they have a backlog. And yes, Charlie's case is important, but Charlie's just a civilian at the same time, so he does not get preferential treatment. However, when the FBI gets involved, now you send that DNA or whatever evidence that you want processed forensically to the FBI. They have a lot more resources and can get it done a lot quicker. Not always, but Trump said that he would have the FBI involved to assist. The FBI is not the main investigators. So it's confusing, but it's really not if you actually break it down and follow the case. Yeah, even politicians used to be tried in state court. It also depends on the politician. If it's a state politician, yeah. If it's a federal, it also depends on when they were unalived. Were they unalived in DC or were they unalived in their home state? It's situational dependent. So, and hey, Jen. More pictures. So, I think. Oh, this is all the TikTok stuff, and they don't have it on their uh, well, let's see. Yeah, unfriendly reminder that for UVU students, this isn't just a national headline. The press release, which we read a long time ago. So we're going through all this, but not closely because it's not. I mean, it's interesting, but it's not like relevant. Hey, Elf Sparkle Squeaks. Feds can assist in a lot of cases, but they usually don't prosecute them. Isn't it also a great way to get expensive things done that wouldn't be affordable in the state budget? That is a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. But I'm not exactly sure, and this is one of those things that I just don't know because I just don't know, and I'm not never afraid to tell y'all when I don't know. Who would pay for that? Um, would it be federal or would the state have to pay for it even though the FBI did it? You know? Uh, it's an interesting rabbit hole. Um, Also, everyone keeps screaming for transparency. This is not a good time for it. Yeah, transparency. Oh, it's actually Haley Mouse. Oh, hey, Haley. I can't change my name back for a few days. I like Elf Sparkle Squeaks. I like it. Maybe you should be Elfie Mouse. Also, everyone, yeah, there's certain times for it to be moved, like for it to be transparent, and there's certain times when transparency can do more harm than good. And right now, when you have a high profile case where people want mob rule justice, um, and people are also thinking that like Israel is involved and people are blowing this way out of proportion. And yes, I like Charlie Kirk in general. I believe that any unaliving is wrong. However, you also have to like back up and take your emotions out of it. It's just difficult. It's very difficult, and this is where you have to take your emotions out of it because when we get emotional, all rational thought goes to shit. And hey, Bobby, how are you? Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I've lost subscribers. Like Deborah Kennedy, she rage quit because of this case because I reported when they said he was, you know, not a his roommate was trans and he was reported as being a furry, which they were like, "Oh, his family is Republican." Yeah, just because your family is Republican doesn't mean that you are. Like it's just because your parents vote a certain way does not mean that you will. It's you know, like and it's just a well, TPUSA and his wife didn't hesitate to capitalize on it, kind of their own fault for the mob rule stuff. Um, I I'm torn on what people are like really weird about her. And it's like, I can't put myself in the position of having a high profile husband, um, who probably knew and he had mentioned in podcasts in the past that this was always a possibility. So he probably had a plan of what he wanted to happen after his unaliving because he had mentioned in a previous podcast, I can't remember who he was talking to, but he had mentioned if about being unalived. Um, you know, she's also a woman who had her husband and the father of her 2 children unalived on camera in public. And then you have people sharing that video millions of times. I cannot put myself in that shoes, and also the fact that you had a business to run. Yes, Charlie was the head and the CEO. However, she was probably his, like, right-hand man, so to speak, and they probably the fact that he had mentioned on multiple times that this was a possibility, he probably had a plan, and his plan was to have her take over. And I'm sorry, you can't there's a time for mourning and there's a time for not. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors and how she mourns when nobody's watching. But to run a multi-million dollar business when your husband just died, like, take all your emotions out of it and take how you feel about her specifically and just look at the fact that he knew that being killed was a possibility. They probably had a plan. This is just using basic logic and fact about, like, being in a serious relationship and talking about what happens if you pass away. Um, and the fact that they have hundreds of employees and thousands of chapters across the US that are still relying on them to do their damn jobs, despite the head of the company now being gone. You can't just stop everything and mourn because you have people relying on you to get up and do your damn job. You said it though, to anybody who doesn't live that life. But you don't live that life, so why are you judging that life? If he loved her as much as it appears, he prepared her for this very problem. Yeah, they cut off a toe and a left foot. She works the foot really well. They tried to stop what he wanted, and by continuing to work, it's like when people very, very small comparison, but people try to bring down other people's YouTube channels, even though we're very small. My ass likes to work harder just to piss off those people and not prove them right. On a much larger scale, they tried to unalive Charlie to stop Charlie's mission. So, what better way, in my opinion, just based on my petty attitude, to bring Charlie's mission to fruition is just to keep busting your ass. Plus, the more you bust your ass and the harder you work, the less you have to focus on how you feel, you know? Speaking of which, Casap due to go to trial in March. I have not been able to get much out of that case. Um, so there is a hearing that we didn't watch because we didn't have fucking time. So, uh, you know, yeah, she's gonna do just that. She will go through hell to accomplish this now. Yeah, I mean, but that's just from my petty attitude when someone tries to tell me to stop, or tries to like that hater that I had that basically called me fat. It's like, okay, I can lose weight, but you'll always be an asshole. Um, I totally understand where you are coming from. However, you said it yourself. The confusion from the general public because it's not what we would do. However, who are we to judge what the head of a company would do, what the head of a multi-million dollar company would do when we aren't the head of a multi-million dollar company? Who am I to judge a woman who just lost her husband live in front of thousands of people in a very gruesome way? Who am I to judge how she responds to that? Because I cannot put myself in those shoes. I don't want to put myself in those shoes. But to now be a single mom as well, yeah, it just pisses me off in the sense of like you talk about how she's reacting. When's the last time your significant other was shot in public and you had to take over a multi-million-dollar company? And so she probably didn't wanna take over the company, but it's what he wanted. You ever thought of that too? Like, she might not have wanted to. She might wanna go crawl up in a corner every day and cry her eyes out, but she can't. So, alright, before I get emotional, um, this is where we're gonna call it a day because all of these is pictures. So, you know, pictures from that they mentioned in the document and witness statements. And we're not rehashing every witness statement. There are thousands of them that we don't see. Um, we will see what comes out. We will see what comes out from the other side. I will probably cover that sometime next week. We really let's see. I'm gonna look at the Substack and Andrea's Substack and see what she has on here. Um, if they do have do and go follow her Substack if you don't. She this is her Substack. Um, I am doing the hearing tomorrow. Um, I don't have time today. We're doing Christmas today with my in-laws because I wasn't feeling good. Christmas Eve. So we are going to yeah. Um we are doing Christmas today. So that is the link to her Substack and the documents. We will see how it goes. The she does put if there's a document here that she didn't get, like return of electronic notification not obtained. It's not worth paying for something that is just a return of electronic notification. So that document was from 12/17. As far as now, I don't see there's a request and order for electronic media coverage of court proceedings and the court minutes for the hearing, but there is no response yet from the state. Um, yeah, I do that too. In some of the federal cases that I cover, I don't get when a summons is issued, because it's not worth paying for something that is literally useless. So, you know, "Oh, just lost electricity. Oh, I hope you get that back soon." Um, I don't know that address. Anyone got it? What address? I posted it. If it's you're talking about the Andrea Burkhart Substack, I posted the link right there. So, yes, and if you don't subscribe to Andrea Burkhart, she is awesome. She's one of the sweetest people on YouTube, but very knowledgeable in what she does. She did a lot of the Bryant Koberger stuff because she's in that area. I believe she's either in Washington or Idaho. I think she's in Washington. So I can vouch firsthand losing a spouse and having to raise small children into adulthood is not something that's easy to deal with. And yeah, she does have people around her, but it, you know, it's still I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. Uh or like the notice of taking depositions not important. Yeah, she's in Spokane. Okay, thanks. I knew she was in that area. I just didn't remember where. So, on that note, I am going to see if there's anywhere I can send you guys to because I like to share the wealth. And I'm trying to get better at redirections, but a lot of the times we just don't have anywhere to redirect. And sometimes YouTube is weird with things coming up. So let's see. Broken Baker. Oh, Andrea Burkhart is actually talking about ruling on media intervention, State v. Tyler Robinson. Will be live. She should be live now. So Go tell Andrea I said hi and tell her I thank her very much for the documents because it is very much appreciated. So yeah, Baker's live, but Andrea is live, and since Andrea has made this stream possible, we're gonna go there. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning at about the same time. Bye, guys. Did I get your email? I will look now. I will check. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But y'all have a great day, and if I don't, email me again. If I don't respond, because I might not have gotten it, email me again. So y'all have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.